Welcome to the Leftovers Rewatch. We're all here after another fantastic episode. How's it going, guys?
Excellent.
Good. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Are we ready to ready to dive in? Are we done with the small talk already? We're done?
We're ready to go.
We're ready.
It happened backstage.
Yeah. By the way, Eckhart knows how to use a camera. Just want everyone to know that.
It is nice that he finally knows how to use the camera. That's nice.
Good.
We start off with Patty the bag lady. I didn't know what else to call it, so I just she's got the stuff. She's laying everything out, and I like how they were going back and forth with this. You had Kevin. He's working on Thanksgiving dinner. He's pulling the guts out of a turkey, which is always a pleasant thing to do. And I just like how, like I said, he's trying to make everything perfect, but so was Patty, right? She's trying. So they're both trying to make something, whatever they were doing, or whatever Patty was doing. She's trying to make it perfect.
And he's trying to make it perfect. They're going through some kind of ritual,
Yeah. Well, he's got Nora coming over, and Jill's going to be there, and fake Amy. So he wants to make it as pleasant as possible, right?
And the music, the selection that they have for the music in the background is fantastic because it's some sort of a hymn, right?
Yeah.
There's trouble all over this world.
And so, I thought when I first rewatched this, I was like, oh, wait, are they doing Thanksgiving? Right? Because it had that feel to it, right?
It did.
So there was definitely like that almost religious quality to everything that's happening in this montage, right?
Well, could it have been Thanksgiving because they just had Christmas a few episodes ago, right?
I know, so it doesn't make sense. But the point is it did have that feeling like he was
that
preparing
homely,
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that homely feel, like that intimate feel.
And for them to juxtapose that with Patty preparing her magnus opus, which we'll find out what that is at some point in time, hopefully.
Yeah, but he was cleaning out a turkey. He was taking out the turkey parts, right?
Yeah, I saw it do it, and it's been a while since you've had to set the table for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Is anybody? It's a big night, It's going to be Nora, and it's going to be Nora meeting,
I got to be honest. I go with the fried turkey. It's the better turkey. That's the best way to cook a turkey, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We got the butterball turkey. I debated like 3 years in a row. I'm going to get I kept, my wife goes, go ahead and get it. I go, I don't want to spend the money. Finally broke down, spent the money like 3 years ago. I've used it like 3 times.
Have you called the Butterball hotline for any tips or?
I just called Bartlett.
Right.
I just called Bartlett for the hotline.
Yeah.
And Caleb hadn't seen West Wing, right, Caleb?
Right.
So you have no idea what I'm talking about, or we're talking about. But if seriously, if you want a really good turkey, you got to fry it. And the safest way is with the Butterball electric fryer because it's not going to start a fire. Yeah. And this show is sponsored by Butterball.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have Patty and Lori sit down, and she a lot of snapping in this episode, right? A lot of snapping your fingers. Which I got to be honest with you, I hate when someone snaps their fingers at me.
Mm-hmm.
Probably shouldn't join a cult where you're not allowed to talk then.
I probably won't.
Okay.
Because you snap your fingers at me, I might break them. Just saying, and put them in my Butterball turkey fryer. But she gives Lori a large amount of cash. Now, why did she know at this time that she was going to provoke Kevin into kidnapping her? Did she have any idea she wasn't going to be there to make the payment?
I think we could assume the second part, but not the first.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she was like giving Lori that task to do, as it's like she's the second in command. Your job is to go get the thing.
Because she writes down ready, yes.
Yeah, but they try to fool you into thinking maybe it's Lori's. Maybe the same thing might happen to Lori that happened to Gladys. We don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, maybe it was Patty's time to be the sacrifice.
Or Lori, yeah.
Lori, yeah.
Or Lori, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have Nora walks out. She's all happy, and she walks by Meg and the other GR and says, "Hey, would you like some Rice Krispie treats?" Your loss. Not many people turn down Rice Krispie treats.
Sacrifices you have to make to be a living reminder.
Yeah, and retro cereal, you have to watch The Leftovers.
Because we're going to say some things that will spoil it.
Yeah.
Wait, does he mean the West Wing?
No, I think he's I hope he's talking about the Leftovers.
Oh,
He has the
'cause I was
best.
like,
He has the best name on YouTube, Retro Cereal. Just saying.
All right.
So would you, if Nora offered you Rice Krispie treats, would you take them?
yes, I love Nora.
But not if I was in the GR. Not if I was in the GR one.
Are they not allowed to eat Rice Krispie treats?
I don't
So
think
you'd follow the rules of the GR? Is that what you're saying?
If I had decided to join the GR, I would follow the rules of the GR.
But
Oh,
what
okay.
are the rules? You can't. Does it strictly say you cannot have Rice Krispie treats?
Nobody would know.
You're certainly not allowed to. Well, then I'm just cheating myself. I'm not, buying in. I'm being a
Of course, if you had regular Rice Krispie cereal, it does talk, snack, crackle, and pop. So that breaks the rules.
I think it's more about accepting food from people who aren't within the cult.
I think, yeah. I mean, and also they don't eat nice things in the cult. It's like oatmeal, plain whatever they have, porridge, kind of porridge. And so, yeah.
Yeah, you're eating matrix food, right? Nutrients,
right?
Plankton, greens from the sea.
Yeah. Then we have family dinner. Everything seems to be going, pretty smoothly. And then fake Amy goes, "Hey," and asks Nora about her job. And I thought it was a pretty good question because she's saying, "Is it hard?" Because it's basically what we've been saying every time Nora. It has to be hard to do. Is you're asking these people about their family, and do they ever go ballistic on you?
Right.
And Nora goes, "No, because they know I carry a gun." Right.
But I thought it was interesting because it's already been established that Nora had to answer that questionnaire herself 3 separate times.
Right.
So if Amy's saying, having that read to you once is just, would make you ballistic, imagine how Nora feels.
Yeah. I thought it was a great question asked by Amy. But then Jill asked Nora, "Why do you carry a gun?" And then, of course, Kevin's like, hey, you're crossing the line, kid. You're crossing the line. But Jill keeps going on. She keeps pushing and pushing. And then Nora goes, "Here, look through my purse. Look through it."
And she doesn't even seem offended at all. She's just like, "It's totally okay. You can look. It's fine." Like, she doesn't have to apologize. We're all good. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
And Rove says in the chat, "Amy is the sharpest one of the bunch. I always felt bad for her."
Yeah.
I don't feel bad for fake people.
Well,
she's not fake. She's talking to everybody at the table right now.
Is she?
She is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jill's being a pissy teenager again, right? And she's got more of a beef this time because there's a lady in the house seeing her dad for the first time since her mom left.
And I think that is difficult. I think that is. I mean,
Sure.
is this the first time they've all sat down together? And I get it is, right?
Mhm.
Maybe having a dinner is not the right way to do it. Maybe just saying, "Hey, have Nora come over." I'm not giving a relationship advice here because who am I? But I think it would have been better setting is maybe have coffee or just something where you have a small, maybe in a restaurant somewhere or something where Jill can't go crazy.
In
Right.
public, yeah, in public.
In public.
People are.
I mean, it's really about like Jill's reaction to her dad doing better.
Right.
I mean,
He's
that's
happy.
he's like probably the calmest and happiest that he's been since the series began.
And she probably says, "Look, you can't be happy. Mom left you."
Right. Or she herself is unhappy. And
Yeah,
she's like,
both.
"How can you be happy if I'm not?
Right.
And
Yeah.
why can you be this way and I can't?" And then
And-
poor Tommy too. She's probably thinking about her brother also.
Right.
And the whole Jill arc in this episode is something I more or less missed the first time I watched it. But they really do a good job of, having this in parallel with Kevin's arc, right?
Right.
They do.
So
like they did previously with Tommy and Kevin.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jill looks through the purse, no gun.
And I mean, this really struck me like, okay, so in this day and age, right now, where there's no departure, there's guns everywhere. And so after the departure, whether you're male or female and all your relatives disappear, I mean, your gun sales are probably going to go through the roof. I mean, I don't think it's a strange for a person in North's position anyway to carry around a gun. It doesn't seem like a foreign thing to me in this country.
Well,
so,
what good is a gun? You depart. What good's a gun going to do you? Does the gun go with you?
No, but if there's another departure and then there's mass chaos,
right? I guess that's true. Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the thing that is kind of implied from that. So I'm absolutely with Ethan in the sense that, like, it's actually surprising that people aren't riding around with bandoliers crisscrossed along their chest.
Yeah, like Mad Max.
Exactly.
I mean, Doomsday already happened, so the Doomsday preppers, half of them disappeared, departed. So you got more preppers.
All right, I can go with that. Good job, Ethan.
oh, thanks. Treat.
I like how when Nora and Kevin walk outside, Kevin's like going, hey, Jill jokes. Nora jokes, hey, Jill, I think she likes me.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Of course, the dog is barking. And to be fair to the dog, it's just tied to that rope all day long, 24/7. I mean, it's not fair to the dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Kevin falls asleep. He wakes up with Dean, the dog killer. Okay, and I know I brought up Amy being fake last week. Is Dean real?
Yes.
Because I could make a better case for Dean not being real over Amy.
Well, I mean, that's what was so brilliant about the way those first few episodes were shot. It's like they just showed him talking with Kevin one-on-one.
Right.
So it was so ambiguous. And that moment where Jill and Amy walk in and he's holding the beer.
Yeah.
And Kevin, even without saying anything, looks at them like, you guys can see him?
Well, can they? Of course, fake Amy can.
Look, well, more importantly, there was that time where he's in the park and the ranger's like, hey, Dean.
Yeah, we'll see.
The family scene earlier, when, like you said, Kevin and Nora walk out, Kevin said that Jill started it, and Nora was like, how mature of you. And I thought that was really funny.
Well, to be fair to Kevin, he's in his first relationship in a while. He's happy with Nora. He wants, obviously wants us to go, but his teenage daughter is being difficult. So, I think he was trying to say that, hey, it's not your fault. It was her fault. But it did come across that. It did come across sounding childish. She started it.
Yeah.
And Nora being Nora called him out.
And Nora did admit that she kind of believes things will get better. So I think the high from the Holy Wayne hug is still present.
That's a good point.
Are we in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Great point.
Okay.
Yep. But going back to old Kevin and Dean, dog killer, they're in a cabin and Patty's tied up and knocked out. And she's not looking too good.
And then we get the credits, right? And
yeah,
this is a good time. I try to mention the director every time. This was Michelle MacLaren, and her big thing is like action scenes and like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. That's like her big thing that she's known for. And I was trying to think what made her really like intricate to this, if there was anything. And there was something huge in this episode. We have that close up going in on Kevin falling asleep, and that's the first time we have that, right? Where he wakes up and it's something different, and to me, it's like the Leftovers that we knew is kind of dies right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're entering Leftovers Mach 2, Leftovers Know and Love. And it happens right there with that pull in on his face. And it's so epic and it's so awesome. And looking back on the show, you see where the pattern starts here. And I just love watching it every time.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's two. for this episode. Ethan, nice job. I'm keeping score. Jill can't find Kevin, and she's probably thinking, "Oh yeah, he's over at her house, at Nora's house." But then we go to a violent scene where Megan is beating up Matt, and she's screaming and yelling at him, and she's breaking all the rules, right?
And she's out cursing Kevin at this point.
Since Amy is, in limited amounts, we can't miss what she said here, though.
Right.
Because Jill, like you said, wakes up and Kevin's not there. And then Amy's like, you must have scared them off to her place. And she was like, finger
Bang,
guns
bang.
and went bang, bang.
Yeah.
Because of the gun and going through the purse and everything. And I was like, she just always corrects me up. Anyway, go ahead. It's not important to anything at all.
But it's kind of also proof,
No, but it is.
but it's also kind of proof that what is happening to Kevin is happening to him because he's not at the house.
True, yeah.
I'm not gonna give you a point for that one.
I don't do this for the points, man. I do it for the love of the show. If I get points.
Whose line is it anyway? Where the points don't matter.
I'm gonna take a point away. If that's okay.
From me?
I don't think that's fair.
-1.
I don't think that's fair.
I'm just joking. I did like with
if you get to -5, you depart.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I like how Megan said, "Why doesn't he leave us alone? Why doesn't he leave us alone?" I thought it was kind of funny. Here she is, part of a group that does nothing but antagonize other people, and doesn't leave them alone. But yet she's screaming because it affected her.
Mm-hmm.
It affected her directly, and I thought it was pretty hypocritical of her for that. I thought it was terrible what she said.
She's like, they're throwing coffee on us and stuff, and it's like you're stealing their pictures from their homes. What?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. And again, you sit outside their house harassing them.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they leave us alone? Why don't you just stay in your lane and not bug them? I just thought it was I know there's people in real life like that, and that bugs me.
This is the real. We're really starting to see Megan here, like
Yes.
Megan that we're going to see in the future, and it's this time I really watched it. It doesn't end through the whole episode. And there's something that happens later that's really effed up that she does, and it's Liv Tyler is amazing to watch in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
is Liv Tyler? Is this the most? Because usually Liv Tyler she's very quiet. She's just very quiet, but in this show she's not. Right? She's very loud, very angry a lot. I'm trying to think of something else she's been in where she's playing a completely different character.
That's a great point too. And also being in the Guilty Remnant, you have to really sell the anger on your face, and she's doing both. She's able to lash out like this, but then later on she doesn't necessarily have to say a lot. But you're scared to shitless of her.
Yeah, she was intense, and like I said, I remember one of my favorite movies, That Thing You Do, and she's very quiet. Anyway, I thought it was great acting by Liv Tyler there.
and it's kind of really important what Matt says about Megan. Her mother died the day before the departure.
Right.
So
well, he doesn't say that until they get to the house.
Okay, but it's on the sheet. It's on the paper, I think.
Oh, okay. Was it close enough
she
for us to read it?
Yeah, well, she gets upset.
Yeah.
She says,
really
"This is about me. This is about my effing mother. My mother has been talking to her friends, and that."
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's funny because we talked about what Matt is doing to them is exactly what they do to others.
Yeah, they have a whole file on everybody.
And the way that Nora handles them says, like, "You guys want Rice Krispie treat? Okay, you're lost." Like that, there is like some sort of a way that people are starting to deal with this issue.
And maybe that's what caused Meg to go crazy. She didn't get the Rice Krispie treat,
and
she's just bitter about it.
Well, in this whole thing, we're calling her Meg. Everyone's calling her Meg. He keeps calling her Megan, and it's a small point, but that's
very important.
That's not what she goes by, and he keeps ramming that in that Christopher Eccleston doing an American accent way.
Maybe that's what her mom called her.
And
and her mom was her mom's the only one that called her that was Megan.
Well, we're also dealing with we're dealing with who you were, who you are, who you want to be.
Totally.
I mean, my mom calls me Jackie.
Jackie boy.
Well, then we call you Jackie.
No, I won't answer to it.
Oh.
My dad had this. I'm
You
the
lost
second.
another point, Ethan.
Well, that's Caleb and Jack. I only have to piss off you tonight, Caleb. I got everyone else on there.
You're at 0 now.
But Jack, what if we say it in a Scottish accent, like, Jackie boy?
That would be okay. That'd be okay. But anyway, going back to, I do like that. Then we have another snapping because Lori goes, sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Has her sit down, and he's talking about us. It's about me. I'm like, just be quiet, Meg.
Yeah.
Be quiet, Megan.
Megan.
And then we come back, and Dean asks, "Is Patty playing possum?" And if you're not from the South, you might not know what playing possum is. But
Oh Lord.
I thought it meant playing dead. Is that not true?
Yeah, it's
yes,
dead.
playing dead. Yeah, some people might not know that.
Yeah,
they might not know that. And then Kevin can't remember, and of course Dean's like, "What do you mean you can't remember? What do you mean?"
Okay, I've got a question for the group here,
Okay.
and maybe Ethan will know the answer. When they shot this scene, well, just because he spent the most time on this, Caleb, right? Do you think when they shot this scene, how much do you think they told Justin Theroux
about what?
about like what's coming in the scene and what the backstory is of what happened last night? Like in terms of that they must. I'm assuming they told. Is his name Michael Gaston, the guy who plays Dean?
Yeah.
They told him the backstory of what happened, right? But I'm guessing that they probably didn't tell Justin Theroux what happened.
No, I honestly, I really think they all read the whole script.
Okay.
I do, and also, who knows when they shot those cutaways? Those cutaways are really, really brutal.
Right.
Of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Patty.
Yeah.
So,
But that's like, if we ever get one of these people on, that's the question I would ask them. Because how brilliant would it have been if like they did like maybe several takes and like each time they didn't tell Justin Theroux like what the actual backstory was, like just to really get the most puzzled sense out of the actor, right?
In this scene, you beat Patty. In this scene, you beat Patty more. In this scene.
Oh. I'm talking about more just like
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Okay.
All right, you don't have any points either. But we see Kevin beating Patty, like we said, and it's not. I mean, it's quick. It's like you said, it's quick, but it's graphic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty brutal. And they're in Cairo, New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, didn't Dean say Cairo, New York?
Cairo.
Yeah.
Cairo, New York. And then we find out Kevin and Dog Killer made a bet. And he's not going to let Kevin Welch on it. Was it $2? Was it something
$1?
Like $1.
It was a Trading Places bet. It was $1.
Yeah. You're not welching on that bet. And this whole scene was pretty intense because the whole time I'm thinking, I go, all right, how does Kevin get out of this? There's no way he gets.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching when I first watched it, going, there's no way Kevin can get out of this because he's kidnapped Patty. As much of a pain in the ass she is, he's kidnapped her, beat her, holding her, hostage or whatever, whatever you want to call it, holding her a prisoner, and he can't decide, basically, well, anyway. And then Kevin goes, okay, all right, Patty, let's just say it didn't happen and everything goes, I'll cut you free and everything will be, and we'll just forget about it. And then Patty spits in his face and says, I don't forget. So is she trying to get Kevin to kill her?
I personally think she did the math and she knows no matter what, she's not coming out of the cabin, whether it's her or him.
Mm.
I think if she gets him, it's a get for her. And if she does it the other way, it's a get for her as well.
Well, I think she said it. She says it later. She tells Kevin he doesn't have the balls to do it, and I think that. I think that she. I don't think she honestly. I think she knows that Kevin wouldn't kill her.
But not about Dean. Right?
Oh well, sure, yeah. I mean, if she's thinking her life is in danger because of Dean, then yeah. But as far as Kevin goes,
Kevin will push back at what you just said. I mean, she just saw what she just experienced what Kevin did to her, right? And she must be aware of Kevin's very violent side by now.
Yep.
So
Well, but he didn't go all the way though. He did beat her up.
And he
But
tried to save her, and all that. So
I think some of the stuff that she says wants to provoke him to see, even saying you don't have the balls, but that's later.
And we have Meg is watching TV. That's got to be a no-no, right? With the GR.
Yeah, and they're saying something about a mass resurrection before Lori turns off the TV.
Right. And then Lori and Meg go to Matt's house.
wait, let's take a step back. Sorry, I should have said this before. The last thing that she says in that scene, where she lays out like exactly what she's going to do, really strengthens like Ethan's view on all this, which is that she's purposely taking away options from him. Right.
Right.
That she's really leading him down the path where he has no option but to kill her, because the alternative is they go back and he loses everything.
Now, if you remember, I don't know, it's always hard to go back. Remember the first time you're watching, but I'm watching going, all right, if he kills her, he's no longer a hero of the show. He's no longer. If he doesn't kill her, then he's going to lose his job. He's going to lose his family. He's going to lose everything. So I'm wondering the whole time, how is he going to get out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what made it so amazing.
Right.
And that's why you're watching the show and you're like, oh, this is a different show than the last one. We're watching a different show now.
Well, Patty even says, you're going to have to finish what you started. And then she's like, now get me an effing cigarette.
Yep. Perfect. Yep.
Well, if he gives her enough cigarettes, she'll eventually die, right? It just might take a while. But we have Lori and Meg go to, and I love this scene because Matt tells Nora, Matt tells Nora Meg had a right to be angry. Mm-hmm. But I love that fact that Nora is there.
Yes.
And
her and Matt kind of made up.
Yeah, and then you have Lori there looking, going, yeah.
Matt says that she has a right to be angry, and the next line I don't completely understand, so I'll throw it out to the group.
Okay.
It says her grief was hijacked.
Yes.
What does he mean by that?
Yes, it means that her. Well, okay. Can I say the spoiler?
Yeah, go ahead. It might cost you a point, but you can.
So basically, her mother died, and she died the day before the departure.
Okay.
So nobody effing cared about Meg's mom anymore,
right?
Because all these other people died or departed, and nobody knows how or what, all that. So a simple death is a simple death now. You know what I mean? And so what would normally be a big deal wasn't for her, and that's why her grief was hijacked, he said. And that's why we found out earlier that her fiance said that I've put off the wedding for, was it 2-3 years? He said 3 years.
Yeah.
And so that's, her grief is still kind of taking over. But yeah, that was I think the point.
Yeah, it's like if someone's mother died on September 10th, 2001.
Right. Got it.
Totally.
Could Meg's mom have vanished the body, maybe? Departed?
No.
Okay. I'm just throwing it out.
Sorry.
I'm going to give myself a point for just thinking out of the box there. That was a good.
How many points did you give yourself last week for fake Amy?
Oh, it's off the charts.
Yeah, right.
It's like off the charts.
Like that.
I think Meg writes down that she's sorry, and Matt goes, "I accept," even though he was still bloodied. He was still. It's like, Matt, can you change your shirt? Wash your face off. Why is the blood still on you?
Nora was like, "Are these the people who did this to you?" And then she doesn't believe Meg. Yeah. After she says, "I'm sorry."
Right. And then Matt tells Meg, I haven't given up on you," which probably pissed her off even more. I'm surprised she didn't stab him with the pin.
Yeah.
Then the best line, I think, of the episode, Nora tells Lori, "Hey, since you're making stops, well, you might want to stop by your house and stop by and with your daughter. I had dinner with her last night. She's pretty messed up."
Yeah.
In so many words.
Yeah, if you're handing out apologies, I have an
Right.
idea of where you can go next. And
Right.
then she doubled down and said, I had dinner with your daughter last night, and basically she needs one too. Meaning she's got to make multiple stops, to Kevin and Jill.
Right.
But I love that she did that.
And I like the fact that she's basically going, yeah, and I'm sleeping with your husband, basically.
Yeah, basically. I went over there and had dinner with your family. So
Yeah.
you should go over. I just want to point out, it just knocked me over, like the firepower you have in this room, right?
Mhm.
You have Liv Tyler, well-known, Amy Brenneman, really well-known, Janelle Maloney, really well-known, and the new kid, like Carrie Coon in there.
Mhm.
Like, it's a
who's who of the Leftovers.
It's almost like you have the cast of the Leftovers in there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like only like 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
But I like that Lori never blinks, though. It's like if they were playing poker, the jab by Nora didn't really... You couldn't tell it affected her because she's just like going... And probably inside it was like... Because she couldn't react because she just got on Meg.
Right.
Meg for reacting.
Her hard, yeah.
Yeah, and I think if anyone had a reason to react, it was Lori over Meg. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
When she said that, I was like, "Ooh, that's below the belt."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was personal.
It's also telling you're a terrible mom.
I almost put her up behind me for Mother's Day, but I decided not to.
We have fake Amy and the twins are talking about Nora, and they're all into it. And then Jill asked the question. Amy, did you gutter my dad?
Hold on. But like Amy is like telling the story to the twins, and she says, Nora's like, I don't give a shit. And she grabs the purse and she's like trying to make it be this like big scene.
And the twins are like, no way.
Yeah. And then they're like, so
Nora,
what's the point of the story?
And she's like, oh yeah, who I'm on a first name basis with now, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she didn't shoot me.
With a joint in her hand. And then Jill, I think she's being honest and she says Nora is pretending. Because Amy's like, what's the big deal? Like, it's because you're dating your dad. On surface level, we think that that's what it is. And then Jill says, Nora is pretending to be okay. She lost her whole family. And then Amy was like, it is possible for some of us to be okay, Jill. And then the nerve had been touched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had a bad breakup. Now, do you think Jill wasn't really shooting it at... directing it at Amy, but more because she couldn't say it to Nora. She was directing her anger at Amy because she was mad at Nora because she knows Nora and her dad are probably sleeping together.
I really think that her and Jill, you can only get so close with someone in that situation before you need to separate. And I think that Jill's going through an extra rough time, and she kind of wants to get to that thing she does at the end. She wants to get to that house at the end.
Yeah.
So she has some bridges to burn. So she has some things to take care of.
But that just kind of came out of nowhere. But maybe.
Well, they obviously were laying the groundwork for the entire season.
Right.
Yeah, the show's been kind of hinting at that, but
just like what was it, the last episode where Amy was telling Jill about like the conversation she had with the dad. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, she said, because Amy said, yeah, he got hard and we did it on top of a pile of guns.
Yeah.
Which can't be comfortable.
More importantly, Jack, there was something that I picked up right after Jill asks Amy that very important question, which we all missed the first watch around. Before she asked him the second time, that very awkward question, one of the twins says, whoa, hey, what? Let's play some ping pong. Okay? And I was like, how did we miss this the first time? Because we were just like so intense. But this is just like just the brilliance of whoever wrote this, and obviously,
because ping pong. I think we've talked about before. Ping pong solves everything. I mean, But I think he saw that it was going to turn into a powder keg, and he was trying to diffuse it.
And it's not just that, but it really does it brilliantly, having like those twins really in many different occasions, like even taking the role of like the viewers, right?
Right.
In the sense of like their awkwardness reflects our awkwardness in that situation. And in the middle of the 8th episode, we finally have one girl ask her best friend if she slept with her dad, right?
Right. And it upset Amy. Amy just said,
absolutely.
I like how Amy answered it and just was basically like, here, I'm going to tell you the biggest story ever about, when obviously, she just couldn't believe that Jill asked her that.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, okay, I'm going to give you this complete story of this, and then throw in the pile of guns thing at the end to be like, obviously I'm joking, but how could you ask that of me?
And
I think Amy's been there for Jill a lot during all of Jill's hardships.
All right, you're getting a point, Caleb.
Oh, thanks. And at the end, even Amy's last words to her, like, thank you for letting me stay to you. So like, I feel like Jill didn't really have a lot of that mutual respect. Amy was like, thanks for letting me stay with you. But Jill never had that thanks for being with me, because Jill still hasn't grasped everything yet. That's why she's not okay.
and to be fair to Jill, she's a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Whose mom has left. They're getting divorced.
There's also that, yeah.
And there's so much, you've had the departure, her life has been turned upside down, and she can't figure out, okay, why is my mom not talking to me? Why does my mom not care about me? Why does my mom not love me? Now my dad's finding someone else. He's moving on. So it was wrong for her to say it. But again, I think she was last. I don't think if Kevin had found Nora, I don't think she asked Amy that question.
Speaking about Nora, I mean, I only realize this now. There's a certain like duality between Amy and Nora in terms of their just willingness to be irreverent and to confront things, right? And how they react to things almost like with a very kind of sharp humor, but ridicule, right?
Right.
But the point is, it's like we talked about, you were describing how Jill has all these issues because of her mom left. Again, Amy must have huge issues, because why is she living at other people's houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't really go into that ever. So
yeah, so that like it's kind of like whatever craziness is happening in the world, it does seem like Amy's handling it better than Jill.
Yeah, it's true.
Because at the end of the day, obviously, Amy doesn't have anybody other than Jill. And I doubt that any of her family, immediate family that is, would have departed, because that was never mentioned. And obviously that would have been something that was said. And it just feels like maybe there's like a broken home scenario, or absent parents, or maybe her parents had died years ago, or any type of caregivers. It just seems like Amy is an individual and has been that way for a while. And you can tell it with her demeanor, with the things she says, things like that.
Well, I think you said it, Eckhart, too, is that they have been showing us the last couple of weeks that Amy and Kevin seem to they talk more than. And so maybe in this episode, you already have Nora coming into Kevin's life, and Amy seems to be close to Kevin. Maybe it's just Jill couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Just couldn't handle, okay, I'm going to lose my dad too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Amy does seem to handle it better, and it would have been nice if we found out more about her backstory. What was the real reason why she was living with them in the first place,
right?
And why she's moving in with someone else.
Dorfman.
Yeah.
Are those the twins?
Huh.
No, I think that's the guy from the
party.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. So
okay.
Wow. Let's see. Kevin. We find out Kevin has quit smoking. Patty calls dog killer a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You're just a ghost. Nothing there. Nothing.
He says, I prefer Guardian Angel.
Yeah.
And she said, well, shit, I think I heard a bell ring.
Yeah.
Which was a great line.
Well, in this scene, we do see an antelope drawing from the Nat Geo on the wall behind Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And, it really got to me that, Patty really knows she's a better talker than these two guys on any day.
Right.
In any kind of debate setting, no matter what.
Well, they're ruffled. They're all frazzled, and she's not.
Yeah. And
I think we've said before, she might be okay. I'm gonna die. It's time for me to die.
Yeah, it's time for her to let go of everything that she's had to say and wanted to say.
Yep.
Let's see. Jill and the twins break into Nora's house. And the twins, they're looking for a gun. The twins find a bulletproof vest, which they've just totally distracted them. They stopped looking for the gun. It was like Christmas morning for them. She finds Jill finds the gun in a game of Trouble, which I think has a meaning. Now there's dust all over the box, right?
Yeah,
and it looks like looks like Nora basically has left the room the way it is since they departed. Would we agree?
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Randy points out they used the dog door.
Well, my favorite line from the twins, because I really wanted to enjoy this, because this is the last time we see the twins, basically.
Spoiler.
That's not a spoiler. Is that a spoiler?
That's a major spoiler.
Oh, I know where you're going, Ethan.
Do you think
even I had the decency to say that although we're getting Amy in smaller amounts,
Listen, I put these
you lose a point.
I put these backgrounds up for a reason, okay? The twins go, do you think Amy was effing Garvey's dad? Probably. Dude
is ripped.
Yeah.
You know what I thought about immediately? I thought about International Assassin. And the first time that episode played, Jack talked about being the body double for the bathtub scene.
I don't want to say it. It's been a few years, so
we'll be mentioning it again.
Again, like this is don't notice this the first time, but like they're perfect, like I don't know, representation of like the audience is like side thoughts, like almost like the thoughts that come from not thinking about like the really serious stuff, but like a reaction to it. Like
what made Jill look in the box?
It said trouble.
I get it, but it had dust. It didn't have dust all over it.
Yeah, it was kind of too on the nose.
I think it's just because it was out of place.
Because
the rest of the room seemed like it was perfect.
All right, because you had was a stuffed bear, rabbit on the floor, something stuffed, right? It was some kind of stuffed animal.
Also, when she walked up the stairs, there's a missing picture frame.
Yeah, well, there were several. There were a couple of them.
Shows, and it like pans into that for a moment.
Yeah, and I didn't like can I just say this? I didn't like the orange in the hallway.
Yeah, I never noticed that before until it panned on that, and I was like, you know what?
You got a pretty clean house. Who does that with the frames with you get that dirty around it?
Yeah, but that's just pretty disgusting, though, the orange paint.
But she left everything for 3 years. So.
Right, yeah.
No, I think those pictures were missing from the GR took pictures, probably.
Oh, yeah, but
yeah.
It was still, it's been up there for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
Probably longer.
Yeah, dust them off.
Yeah, really.
And as they leave, because Jill comes down, we're going. What? We're going? Who? Did you find the gun? The whole thing. And we find out that Kevin calls. And it's a broken message. He's calling Nora and, I'm going crazy. What's going on? This is just insane. But he only has one bar and all that stuff. Anyway, where am I at here?
He's back in the woods and hanging up with the Nora message.
Yeah.
He finds the missing shirts.
Missing shirts, which was a great scene. They're his shirts. They're shoes. Now, were those his shoes?
They were the shoes that were in the exact same configuration. My wife asked that question when we were the exact same configuration is in that picture in the National Geographic.
Oh, that's right.
With that bucket around it. and there's shirts everywhere, and he has some kind of realization there.
So Ethan, we know those are his shirts, but we don't know like when he actually hung those up, right?
Yeah, but we have to know that he went up there since he's gotten that magazine.
And we have to know that he probably hung them up when he couldn't find them.
Well, that's where they were when he couldn't find them.
Right.
Well, we do know he used to come there as a kid to go smoking.
To go to camp.
I thought he went there to go smoking.
Camp and smoking.
Camp and smoking. Randy points out he didn't need to tear the shirts to take them down. He's right.
He was having a bit of a breakdown, you know.
Now he's going to need more shirts. And the poor dry cleaner's like going, I didn't have your shirts.
He had to punch that tree a couple, 2-3 times.
Officer Mustard Stain.
Officer Mustard Stain. That's right.
Let's see. And then Kevin's losing it. He comes back. Patty's got a plastic bag over her face and over her head. I would not want to die that way. Can I just say that right now? That is a terrible way to die.
And we never see anyone do it again on the show, so that's good.
But I've seen serial killer movies where they do it. It's just like, oh my God, I can't handle that. That's freaking me out. The Kevin and dog killer fight as Patty's. The scene was well done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm like going, okay, save Patty, save Patty, save Patty. I don't want her to die this way.
But also, like, just this entire episode, how, again, I'm assuming it's pronounced Michael Gaston. I mean, he just plays this crazy character to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
There's no flinching, absolutely sociopath. Like, there's nothing in him that flinches about doing something wrong, and it's all for him. Actually, for him and Patty, it's both going in the same direction.
Right. Patty's
death and just getting Kevin to do it, right? And like Ethan said, Patty's like out debating both of them, right? Like Dean keeps trying to get him to do,
what he said he was going to
do. And Patty's the one that just leads him right to the target.
I like that we go to Megan and Lori, and Lori didn't really want to talk, and Meg's talking to her, and then she slaps Meg, right?
Yeah, Lori slaps Meg because she won't. She said she wishes that Meg goes off about Nora and how much she hates her, and then Meg says that she wishes she could see her face on Memorial Day, and that's when Lori slaps her and is like, shh.
But then Lori goes to deal with the other people, and they linger on Megan for a second, and she gets this smile that creeps across Meg's face. Like she got what she wanted. She wanted to get a reaction out of Lori, and she got it, and she smiled her eating grin about it.
Because she's been wanting her to talk this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why she so you're thinking she's already that ingrained.
Ever since she goes and attacks Matt, but then she's like, why can't we use violence against people?
Right.
Like they're putting out cigarettes on us. Why can't we fight back? So, it's all.
She wants to change the direction of the GR.
She's got.
It's so crazy that she's like such a dangerous recruit,
Yeah.
And it really shows Lori's actions, which I think they really drive home in this episode, is that when you left your family, it didn't just affect you, honey. It affected everybody you left, and it is going to affect everything we do, there's a ripple. And just like her recruiting Meg, that's a massive ripple that's going to have massive repercussions later. So just saying.
That smile comment gets me a point, though. Write that down.
I was going to give you 2, but since you asked for it,
just one.
You only get 1.
All right.
Let's see. The U-Haul shows up. Lori writes down before, hey, do you have the cash? Patty told us you were going to be here and all that different stuff. So Patty knew ahead of time that she was not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Lori says, yeah, but you got to show me what's inside first. And he goes, and they show him inside, and then the guy says something. He gives him the cash. How much cash was it? It's a lot of hundreds.
I'll say 10,000.
10,000. But he says something like, "You guys are batshit crazy" or something like that.
So you people are some sick Fs.
Yeah.
Sick, okay, yeah. Which he's not wrong.
No. But stupid me, the first time I was watching this, I had no idea what was going on. No idea.
No. And then the GR start unloading it, and the worst one is when they show the little. Obviously, it's we know now is a baby. At the time, we really didn't know what it was, right?
I did.
It could have been a loaf of bread. I mean, as far as it looked, but we find out later on, and they just kept focusing on. That's what they focused on.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole time you're like going, and knowing now what we know, it's like that's just heartbreaking that the baby departed.
And it's also goes back to the beginning. The very first scene of the show.
Is that Sam? Is that the Sam loved one?
I think it's Sam, who was left in the car seat with the window open.
That's gonna make me cry right now.
Yeah, it's Sam. Nora comes home. She plays Kevin's message and goes, "I can't hear it. I don't really know what he's." Right? I mean, she just kind of goes, "It's breaking up." And now, if it was a clear message, I think she would have been more likely. I think it's clever the way they did it because it was, "I need your help." All the stuff he was saying. I think she would have stopped everything and helped him, right? Or at least would have called him back. No? Yes? No?
Yeah, I think she would.
She goes upstairs, past the terrible orange paint in the hallway, and she sees the doors open.
Yes, she's left everything the way it is.
And she sees the gun on the bed.
Yep. Jill just left it out, box open, everything. Like, I know you have a gun.
I see you.
I mean, like I see you, but what was the point? To try to intimidate Nora? I mean, leave her alone.
Well, I think it was Jill's way as a teenager to say, "Yeah, I know you're a phony. I know you have the gun," but she never denied not having the gun. She just didn't say she said she didn't have it on her.
Right.
But I think again we go to Jill. She's not thinking clearly.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to give Jill some slack on this. I think it's she's just a kid.
Wait, let's unpack that a little further. She broke into Nora's house to see if she has the gun. I mean, it's the next step up from they broke into the car looking for the gun, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like even before Nora was dating Kevin, like there was some sort of fascination that they had with her, right? So, but it's and again, like the parallel here, this episode is Kevin realizing that he's had a mental breakdown, right? In his case, he doesn't understand how he got in this situation, and now he's got to deal with an impossible situation.
Would it be? Go ahead.
And Jill just like losing her, having that sense of losing everybody that she cares about in her life.
Well, she's in a ton of pain, and she sees Nora walking around who should be in the most pain, and that makes Jill angry because if she can feel fine, why isn't Jill feeling fine?
I like that.
She didn't get the hug. Right? But is it more that they're fascinated with the gun because you look at Nora and you think, okay, she's not going to be a gun owner. She's not going to be carrying around a gun. Right? Maybe stereotyping Nora? No?
Oh, just to be like she's not the type to just carry one around.
Right. And it's a big, I'm not a gun person, but it looked like a big gun to me.
But see, when I started thinking about that, I thought, well, my first thought was, well, I mean, if she's known around town that her whole family departed and she got a ton of money for, whatever settlement or whatever, I mean, maybe she does need protection. She still lives in her house, which seems nice. And, maybe it's not that far-fetched to think that, she would just have one. And like Ethan mentioned earlier, everybody probably has one, doomsday preppers and all that.
Right. Jill comes home and Amy is leaving. And I kind of felt a little sad. I felt bad for Amy.
And Dorfman, where she's going to, is the the house where the party was in the pilot.
Oh yeah, the
but
parties at Dorfman.
Dorfman's, yeah, but it's not. Dorfman was not the guy that Amy stole from Jill. It's just
Okay.
a random dude.
Yeah.
It's a guy. It's a nameless guy who has parties at his house.
Exactly.
So does this guy have parents? Because I don't know too many people who say, yeah, have Amy come over and yeah, Amy can stay with us.
Yeah, but she probably has to stay in the sister's room. The sister that departed.
Ah, that's awkward.
Well, Jill even, in this scene doubles down. She doubles down. Amy says, "I hope you feel better," and Jill just looks at her and is like, "I'm fine." Like she will not admit that she's not okay, and Amy did her best to help, but then that's when Amy says, "Well, thanks for letting me stay."
A lot of people don't like to admit that they have issues and they're depressed, and it's not something that people want. A lot of people don't want to talk about. And I think Amy, at this point, she knows they're a little on the outs, so.
And I mean, you just nailed something, Jack, in the sense that her defining characteristic, Jill's, is that suppression.
Right.
That suppressed anger, that suppressed fear, that suppressed pain that comes out at different points in time and tends to come out pretty excessively, right?
Right. Which I thought was going to happen in the next scene because Amy gets a large knife from the kitchen and goes to the dog. I go, oh my God, she's going to kill the dog. I mean, I remember the first time I watched it, I thought for sure she was going to stab the dog.
And this show does that on more than one occasion. You know what I mean? These kind of like fake outs. So.
Yeah, but it was like, I mean, did we all, again, going back to the first time we watched it, I'm thinking, okay, the way she walks out with that knife and the way they're filming it, she's going to stab this dog. Because it's one more thing that Dad seemed to care about, and he doesn't care about me anymore. So I'm going to kill the dog. But she cuts them loose. But I don't like the fact she didn't take the rope off his neck. Could have got tangled somewhere and choked to death. And
that rope will become essential later in a couple episodes.
Okay, that's true. Let's see. And Lori asked the GR about Patty, and people are. And that's basically what they said.
And with the worst handwriting ever, she says it's still on.
Still on.
Yeah.
Lori takes charge. She's in charge now. She's like, okay, I'm the head honcho. Jill goes to the GR.
It's a powerful scene. For sure. And this is what this show does, especially in these 8th episodes. They take you to the brink because an episode kind of could have ended right there. That could be the end.
Yeah. Of
the episode is her seeing her at the GR door.
Now, is it Jill finally going, okay, what we've been saying the whole time, she needs her mom, and she goes to her mom. And yes, she likes sitting at Patty's desk, Lori.
Also, you mentioned earlier that Lori may have not have been affected by what Nora said, but in that scene when Jill arrives, Lori has pulled out the binder of everybody's names and is zoning in on Nora and her family and taking out the photo and everything. So she's jealous, she's pissed, she don't like her either. Yeah. She's interested.
But like you said, Ethan, this could have been a cliffhanger, boom, end of the episode. But it's not. I just thought... I was shocked that Jill went there.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point, like we've said, between the fight with Amy, accusing Amy of sleeping with her dad, Nora, the dog, everything, that she thinks she's lost her dad. Her dad's been there for her, but now it's like, I forget which one you said it, but everyone's moved on, but Jill.
Right.
And when he is there, he's only there in small amounts.
Right.
And I'm sure she picks up on the fact that he's acting a little off too.
And I think maybe that she goes like, well, when my mom reached the end of her rope, she went here. So I've reached the end of my rope. So I'm going to go there because I'm at the end of my rope and my mother's there.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on what Ethan just said. I mean, you can actually interpret it two ways. The one most obvious on the surface is that she wants to be with her mom. But it goes to the next scene that we're going to talk about in terms that the GR is all about remembering the pain, right? And her entire issue is people acting like they're not in pain.
Right.
And she wants to embrace it.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And that's why she goes there.
You get a point, Eckhart.
Thank you.
Probably listen
I'll
to
share it with Ethan.
I wrote down that is Lori horrified at what she's done? Does she realize the harm she's caused now?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's
I would
there.
because she's not stupid. Obviously, she has to, and she's a psychiatrist. She has to know the pain she inflicted on her daughter by leaving. That her daughter, like I said, the most impressionable years. You still need your mom. You probably always need your mom. But those years, you really need your mom, or a loving parent, or someone who loves you and cares about you. And she didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she had Kevin, but Kevin had his own issues.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
Anyway, then we go back to again, it's not over. We go back to Kevin.
But right here, I do want to mention that while I watched this episode 4 or 5 times this week in different iterations.
You get a point for that.
Oh, thanks. Every time I got here, I was like, "Oh, we're here already." It's a fast-moving episode.
It is. You're okay too.
And
it is a fast episode.
And the Leftovers wasn't really doing that every single episode.
No. You're correct on that, because sometimes you look and go, "Wow, I still got 30 minutes left."
Yeah, and it's impressive that they did that, considering that they were dealing with 3 subplots.
Totally.
Yeah, and Rose right about that. She was.
Yes.
Lori is selfish. Let's see. So they go back and forth, back to Patty, and then Patty asks Kevin, "Do you ever think about the 14th of October? You ever think about it, Kevin?" And she's getting to something else. And then Patty goes, "You know what? I accept what happened. You don't." And he's like, "I accepted it. I accept it." And then and Kevin tells Patty, "Well, you're full of shit." And Patty doesn't blink.
She gets a look on her face when he says that. She takes it back because she hasn't been talked to like that since probably Neil.
That's a good point.
Because I saw her the reaction on Andot's face, and she moves past it really fast, but it's definitely there.
She also gives an answer to kind of what a lot of viewers are still wondering about the GR when she says, "We strip ourselves, the colorful diversions that keep us from remembering. We strip away attachment, fear, and love, and hatred, and anger until we are erased, until we are a blank slate. We are living reminders of what you try so desperately to forget. We are ready and we are waiting because it's not going to be long now." So, and we've seen the posters of "We Are Living Reminders," hanging up at the GR house.
And then I thought we had a great line here because Patty says, "You know what? Before the departure, I used to tell Lori everything. After the departure, Lori told me everything, especially what you did with your dirty dick."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like going, whoa. And I only I said this because it's in the script. So I figured it was okay to say it. Did I miss the part where she tells Kevin that Lori might be? Is this later on where Lori might be next to, because they talk about Gladys, right? Am I okay? Yep. I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry. Let's see. Kevin asked Patty, "Did Gladys have a purpose?" And so we're getting this, and Patty admits to killing Gladys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had a purpose. We killed her. And Patty tells Kevin that Lori's time is coming. Now, was this again her pushing Kevin to kill her? Because if I'm Kevin, at this point, I'm like going, okay, do I kill Patty to save Lori?
Yeah, I mean, she says all you need is a little push. Like she's literally giving the push.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Patty's elated that Kevin knows Gladys's name and remembers it.
Yeah.
She gasped in pleasure. And so at this point, Patty probably, if she does know she's going to die or wants to, she thinks that her whole cult's going to worship her, and, especially this faction here. So if life or death and nothing matters, then, I don't think it could go either way with her. I really think she doesn't really care.
I can also almost also remember at this point when I watched it the first time going, oh, don't kill Patty. She's one of the better characters on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that too. I mean, you're like, finally, this is fascinating, right?
Yeah, because she's such an interesting character and such a great actress. And you do dislike her because she's such a pain in the ass. I mean, right? I mean, she's doing exactly what she's as an audience member, you're like going, all right, just kill her already, you know, but you're like, okay, that's wrong. You can't kill.
Can we take a quick step back? And
Sure.
I wanted to interject, but I wasn't able to. Before, when she talks, what Caleb read, that line talked about strip away the colorful diversions that keep us from remembering. I've read that section several times, and I just want to confirm what she says doesn't make any sense, right?
A lot of what she says doesn't make sense.
So I just want to confirm that I'm not the only one so that Kevin's reaction, despite his highly emotional state, is actually the right one, where he says you're basically full of it.
Right.
This doesn't even make any sense. What are you talking about? So that I'm right.
I think he even says, I don't understand.
Yeah. So that like where he's in that moment speaking for the audience as well, which is like, okay, none of this makes sense what you're saying. Like that but I think it's important because it shows that if this is what she believes and this is what she's been signaling to her cult, that the entire cult is based on some sort of inconsistent internal logic, right?
But isn't that most cults?
Sure. I mean, obviously, because it's based on mind control and faith and stuff like that. But at some level, like there's some sort of a consistent logic. But this isn't even consistent, right?
You're right.
You know, I really tried to make some kind of connection here with Jack from Lost, with like, you know, letting go, right? Because in many ways, Patty is saying that they've accepted what has happened, they've let go, and there's people like Kevin or Jack from Lost who haven't let go yet, haven't accepted the departure, haven't accepted that their world has changed and their life is different now.
But I would argue that they haven't let go.
No.
Why would you join a cult and antagonize people if you've let go and if you've accepted the departure? You should just be walking around life trying to get people, lift them up, say, hey, all right, we need to move on.
Right.
Right.
So and she even says, we are living reminders of what you try so desperately to forget.
Right.
Right. And she's right. Like, people are trying to forget it, trying to move past it, act like, you know, it didn't happen and move on, which will happen in the flow of time. But, you know, yeah.
I don't know if you could ever forget something like that, but can you move on from something like that? That's the key. And obviously everyone has a harder situation. Going back to Jill looking at Nora, how can you be so happy when you lost your entire family? I don't know if I could ever recover from that. I don't know if I could ever go around saying, okay, I got a hug, I'm good.
And the show in the end ends up being about that very much.
Yeah.
Towards the very end. You know what I mean? So, you know.
Right.
Yeah, mostly the cult shit is bullshit.
Right.
And if you're part of a cult listening, hey, we're not talking about your cult.
That's next week.
Yeah. So anyway, we got the great scene where Kevin, you know, he just has had it. After, you know, he says, "But Lori's time next." He picks up he goes to the toolbox, gets a knife, and it's almost like when it was almost filmed the same way where Jill has the knife with the dog. Not that Patty's a dog, but it's the same. You're thinking, okay, he's going to stab her.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to.
Well, wait. Well, hold on a second. Before we do that, you know, I don't know if Caleb wants to read it or not, but it's like the most powerful thing in the entire season of this show. Almost is this poem she reads, right? And I don't know what it means. I'm not going to read it because I'm not a good reader. I can't make it sound as good as Ann Dowd. I posted it earlier this week. You know, the Yeats poem. Caleb, you got that? You want?
I'm not reading it. I'm not getting points for anything. So why should I?
If you read it, you'll get 3 points.
Well, I'm all about those points now. But Patty says, she says, "Oh, vanity of sleep, hope, dream, endless desire. The horses of disaster plunge through the heavy clay. Beloved, let your eyes half close and your heart beat over my heart, and your hair fall over my breast, drowning love's lonely hour in deep twilight of rest, and hiding their tossing manes and tumultuous feet. And then she says, Kevin, Kevin, Kevin Garvey, you don't have to hide from me.
Which I think speaks directly to this line I'm making, is that he does carry a lot of the thoughts that the GR has. Just, when you get down to the nitty gritty, a lot of their thoughts are BS, but he carries a lot of the emotion.
Well, she says, I think about that day every single second, and everybody is, but they're pretending they're not. Right. And Kevin's like, sure, I remember the 14th. I'm okay. You're thinking about it every second. We know. Like, you've had too many repercussions everybody has. The repercussions of that event is, affecting everybody. So they're all,
Again, I don't know how, like you said, we had when Nora and Kevin first had their first date or something. They had trouble with their conversation because they're trying to avoid talking about it, but they couldn't help but talk about it because it's part
all
of their
roads lead here. Yeah.
Right. So it's how can you not think about it?
So can we, for simplicity's sake, divide kind of the world into the people that are okay with moving on and the people that aren't, and that the people who aren't okay with moving on and just keep getting pulled back to October 14th, those would be the type of people that Patty would target?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And that's what she's talking to when she's trying to, where she says, you just need a little push, you're almost there.
Well, that's also probably why, as we've seen over the past few episodes, they have like permanent GR members. Meg is one of them, standing outside Nora's home. Mm-hmm. They're like, she's in this town, she lost the most. She's bound to crack, so they've got them stationed there, ready and waiting.
Shouldn't they have had more than... Wouldn't it have been better to have 3 out there because that represents how many people she lost?
Oh my gosh! Great point. You get a point.
You get
Thank you.
Look at you.
But I always thought in this episode specifically, they're taking dates and times so when they can sneak in and do what they're going to do. I thought that's what the
they're monitoring when I think they're having to do that with everybody to some extent because of stealing the pictures,
right,
or whatever else they've got going on.
So we go back to. Are we ready to go back to the Kevin scene? Because I thought it was filmed in the same way that with Jill and the dog, the knife. You're thinking, okay, he's going to do it. But he cuts her loose and says, "No, I'm done. You can go back and report me. I'll lose everything, but I don't care. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not." And I thought, okay, now Kevin's going to lose everything. But then you see the broken piece of glass. And I remember saying at the time, I go, all right, she's going to do harm to herself, not Kevin. Mm-hmm. And in a pretty graphic scene, she stabs herself in the neck, and her GR whites are now red with her own blood. And that's it. He's like, no, but she killed herself.
And she keeps saying, Kevin, you do understand. You understand. Mm-hmm. And can we talk about spoilers?
Sure.
I think so.
Yep.
I thought there was, again, we would have never thought about this when we watched it the first time, but now in the rewatch we can think about there's a certain duality between this scene where she's talking about trying to convince him that he understands. And of course, perhaps the final scene of, is it the second season of Leftovers between Kevin and John, and where one of them says, I don't understand. And Kevin says, I don't understand either, and it's okay.
But it was really on the bridge before that with Evie and her mother.
Mm-hmm.
Because Evie said, literally writes down, I don't understand. And she's literally writes down on the page, you do understand.
Mm-hmm. So
that happens twice in that episode.
Yeah. So I guess you got one parallel and one variation, right?
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's one of those. I don't think there's one of those in the third season. But
so with Patty killing herself, this gives Kevin, well, I didn't kill her, right? It's I know it's but when it's one of those things that if he had killed her in cold blood, it's like, how could we root for Kevin again? Right. Even though we don't like Patty, how could we root for Kevin again? If he had let her go free and she had gone free, we had talked about it earlier. Okay, as bad as it was, he did kidnap her, he did beat her, but he didn't kill her.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, from some viewers probably already may have this idea, which would be, well, can't he just like bury her in the woods here where he's at, and like the cops aren't going to care. They're not going to care about another missing GR, and especially Kevin's part of the cop force or whatever. Right. So like, there's already those thoughts,
Yeah, but we think more about like what it means for someone like him that his moral fiber gets torn asunder, right? What does that do to him as a person, right? That's what we care about.
And just the fact that like he's sitting there holding her, and we're gonna come to know this. I've said this before, is like the greatest duo in my personal TV history, right? Like, but here she dies, and it's so powerful. It's so powerful, but it's not like a feel good because the show doesn't really do this till the end of the season, right? The very last shot of the season is the feel good moment, right? And so this is just powerful. The episode's been completely different, and you feel something, and you have to sit with it for a while there. But it's over, and you still you're in this spot where you don't know what it means.
Yeah,
you don't understand.
Yeah,
at some level, you're just as confused as Kevin,
and that's brilliant writing
and brilliant acting.
Yes,
because it's like it's what we just described was one of the craziest episodes of TV that we've ever seen, right? We don't know where to place this. It's it doesn't fit in any sort of mold, right?
Right.
And if you watch reaction videos on YouTube, like after Cairo, everyone is like, this is a different episode completely. You know what I mean? So, and it's like, this is the 8th episode of season 1. The 8th episode of season 2 is International Assassin, which is the other big, Patty Kevin thing. So there's
I'll spoiler. I like that episode.
International Assassin.
He enjoyed filming that episode.
Yeah.
Well, you still get
residual. Another take.
I had to do a few sit-ups before that.
Right.
But it's it's like that's why Jack, like whenever you were like qualifying, whenever Leftovers came up, and you're like, people, I know the first season is difficult, just sit through it. I was like, why are we like downplaying season 1? Season 1 has so many good moments to it.
It has a lot of great moments to it, but people just gave up on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's like they didn't know what to expect. And I'll be blunt, like, I mean, we should actually ask ourselves this question after every season. Like, what other TV show since The Leftovers has been like this unique or creative, right?
Not many.
I mean, again, the thing that is closest still is HBO Watchmen, right?
Did it come too soon after Lost that people wanted more?
No, it's just such a different flavor from the same guy, and all that stuff all that stuff starts to work in, especially starting now.
Well, it does, but the problem I think with The Leftovers season 1, you don't have a lot of comedy. You don't have a lot of it's a dark subject, and again, I love it. I love season 1.
There's comedy there.
There is comedy there, but you're so depressed most of the time that you can't.
What do you mean? Dude is ripped.
Yeah, dude is ripped.
Dude is ripped.
Well,
it's super funny.
You have the twins, but I'm saying you have Downer Jill, Downer Kevin, Downer Nora for the most part. The whole thing. It just I think most people gave up like on the 4th episode. That's why I tell people, I go, all right, go back and watch. I keep saying over and over, watch season 2 and 3. You should watch season 1, but you can watch season 2, and I think you can watch it without having to see season 1.
No, don't do that, Jack.
Well, I know that.
You lose all your points.
I will admit that I have done rewatches and skipped season 1 entirely.
All right, you're off the show.
And I mean, look, I'm not getting any points anyway. Like I said, it don't matter.
Well, you were until you said that.
So,
No, I'm kidding.
but no, I mean, seriously. But I think that this show is. I always describe it to people as poetry, and I've mentioned several times how I feel like it goes against the grain where most people don't, and it tells and doesn't necessarily show. And through the dialogue in this episode, we get so much information. And when you have the dialogue right, everything else falls in place. So basically what I'm saying, the writing is good. That's
Well,
basically what I'm saying.
we said it several times in this episode. It's like, okay, if Kevin were to have killed Patty, you know, because Kevin's one of my favorite. Obviously, he's one of the main characters, not the main character. I love Kevin's character, but if he would have killed Patty, it's like, okay, how can I like him? You know, I can't root for someone who killed someone in cold blood.
Right.
You know, it's the only thing she did in life was being annoying. But it just, for whatever, this show didn't do well in the ratings. It didn't. There's not a lot of people that watched it, and like I said, they've messed out. They messed out on some great television, and there's a lot of shows like that. There's shows, even the end of Lost. You know, Lost had 20 million people watching it the first season, and then by the end there was only 7 or 8 million people watching, maybe 9 million people watching it. So those 11 million people that started with it, I think, messed out. They hurt themselves. This show, I think maybe 1 million people watched it,
and less by the end of the first season.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, and every season, you know, after the first season, it's like, all right, is this show even going to come back and have a second season? No, it did, and had a fantastic season. It had a great season, and I don't think the ratings went up very much. So, because we're almost like at the end of season 2, we're like, all right, this could have been a great conclusion. All right, they wrapped it up really well. Best season of television maybe ever in the history of television, and that's saying a lot because you have Breaking Bad and you have Lost and you have BSG. You have all these great shows that you know, but we're saying this could have been the best, and only 1 million people watched it. Of the 300 and what am I talking about? The billions of people on the planet
at that point in time. But over time, that will change.
Well, also the show gets really deep, and it's so much is metaphors, like from, you know, paper towels on a table to a beaded necklace. You know, there are metaphors throughout the entire show, basically from here on out.
Was it too deep for people?
I think the first season was too chaotic with too many characters and too much of a downer, as you said, and it was too hard to follow. But I do think that changes, like right now.
Okay, so all right, so I found the viewership. Okay, so in all of season 1, it went between 1.7, the highest. The next episode we're watching got the highest at 1.8 million people.
Okay.
Right? The season 2 premiere was 0.7.
Yeah, I remember it was bad.
It, like, more than half did not come back for season 2.
Right.
And that's a beautiful premiere. It's a and it even shrunk, and the highest watched episode of season 2 was the last one, and it had under 1 million people.
Because I know a lot of people, including myself, said, "Wait, we're going to go to Texas?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a whole new." I go, "Come on, what are they doing here?"
They're creating awesome. That's what. They're doing.
Well, but you're thinking, what are we doing? Are you just rebooting this thing? And what? I think a lot of people had that attitude, and it shows in the ratings when you can't even get 1 million people to watch a show on HBO. A show that
lead-in was probably to The Sopranos or something stupid.
Yeah.
Like that, you know?
And for us, we're doing this rewatch because we love the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ro even says she loves the show, and people are in the chat. They're here because they love the show. Mm-hmm. And again, I guarantee you, how many people we know that never watched The Leftovers.
But this is my theory, Jack. Is that because it's unique, and in some ways it might have been ahead of its time, right? It has a much longer tail in the sense that people will watch the show over time. like just through word of mouth and just the cream tends to rise to the top. So that just because it got low ratings when it was on, doesn't mean that it's not going to be watched over the next 15 to 20 years.
Well, it will, but it's not in the masses that should have.
It's been featured in a lot of articles, I've noticed.
Oh yeah, like top shows of the millennium. It's always
it's always
top
up
5,
there.
or it's always like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Just one thing I did.
Can I say something though? Those are the same people that print articles about how Lost was the worst finale of all time.
Well, hey man, go listen to the Hats. They got Damon Lindelof coming for season 5, and I might be able to get an extra from International Session.
There you go.
So
I guess I could contact Lindelof maybe.
Man, I don't do well in that situation, so I would watch, but I can't talk to that guy.
He's pretty easy to talk to.
I bet he is, but if you put like Damon Lindelof or Pete Townsend in front of me, I'm not going to be able to talk to him.
Well, I can't get Pete Townsend.
Yeah, well, good. Get Damon Lindelof.
You bet.
Ooh, hey. Just so everyone knows, at the beginning when they're sitting down to dinner, they play the Sam Cooke song "Dreams to Remember" in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and that is the final song in Book of Nora that Kevin and Nora dance to at the wedding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is that a spoiler?
Yeah.
Technically.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
But that's it really for spoilers. We talked about everything else.
But I mean, look, it's in the post-COVID or during COVID world. I mean, again, the way that we're digging into Leftovers now, having gone through COVID, makes us feel the material of the show even more than we did before. So it's almost like I wouldn't be surprised if, over time, just more and more people end up watching this and binge watching it.
If you're HBO, could you put it back on since so many people haven't seen it?
No, you don't need to. It's just an Amazon Prime.
But no, I'm saying if you put it on once a week, would people watch it?
I don't think TV works that way anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. In a theoretical world where they would take all 3 seasons of Leftovers and show them now in a post-COVID world, without mentioning that this series was actually filmed in 2014 to 2017. If they showed it now, I think it would do a lot better than it did back then. Just because we as a TV society are more, I think we're more advanced now. Like, I think it was ahead of its time.
Right.
And, I think, when we start getting into season 2, I'm going to do compilations of the headlines of the recappers. Because it's ridiculous when you read those every week. Like, another ridiculously 5-star episode of Leftovers aired. You know what I mean? So,
like, I definitely remember one time, probably in the middle of season 2, when I called in right after the show, and like I was just like, I had a hard time talking because the show put you in this state, and obviously this episode is probably the first one that put you in that state where you're just like, you can feel like the shivers go down your spine. You can feel your heart beating faster. And it's just so intense. And you're wondering, like, how do they put out like this incredibly intense show every episode, every week?
and next week they go back to, you think you're going to come right back. I was listening to someone, I think I was listening to our friend, can I say our friend, Josh Wigler. And
is he our friend?
I don't know, man. He's more your friend than mine.
He's a good guy. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know he's a good guy. When they were doing their recap of this episode, they said something like, "Man, I can't wait for next week. We're going to pick up right where we left off." And we don't. We go right into a flashback episode.
Because that's what the Leftovers did great. They kept you guessing too.
But you would think after Across the Sea, he wouldn't be doing that shit anymore.
But
I've also noticed.
But it worked.
Well, I was going to say, I've noticed with a lot of people who are doing Lost reactions on YouTube that spoilers for Lost, by the way. When Shannon gets shot and that
Wait.
episode ends, and
who
then
shoots her?
we all know who. And then the next episode is the other 48 days. Everybody was so like upset, but that was like such a much needed episode. So it's kind of the same thing here. Like you're left with this big cliffhanger. How's everybody going to act?
Well, like
You know
I
what
said,
I mean?
another 48 days. I think it kind of shows why Ana Lucia was the way she was.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, from a television viewing standpoint, people are wanting it to pick up immediately and find out what happens, and even more so in the Leftovers, because nothing this big has happened yet in terms of character deaths.
And they do the same thing too in season 2 with a character death. You know, they go back to see Meg's story right in the middle of the.
Yeah, I've been doing a BSG rewatch, and they've pretty much done the same thing. They do the same thing where it's like they have different. Wait, what are we doing? Did I miss an episode?
It's in the fracking ship.
I think a good way to compare it would be to say with Lost, they took the characters and they said, okay, immediately we're going to like hone in on the stereotypes to make people think this, and then we're going to twist it all up. So they wanted you to think, Jen was like an abusive husband and things like that. In this show, they want you to not know what any character is going to do at any given time. Right. And so it makes it that much more chaotic.
And Kevin's the biggest example of that, because you never know. It's like, dude, don't go to sleep. Because
right.
you're
never
real?
going
Is he dreaming?
You should just not go to sleep.
Because all those pills, was it Ambien? What's the sleeping pill?
He flushed them, didn't he?
Yeah, but if you take it, it does affect you.
I'm on 3 now. So.
And if Lori knows, if Lori knows that Kevin has some sort of condition, and she still chose to leave and go be with the GR, knowing the stress that this would put Kevin under with his already condition that she knows, that she's aware of, makes that even more of a shittier decision on her part.
Yeah, she could. That's a great point, and you get 10 points for that. because she should have. Okay, I'm going to take Jill, because she knew what Kevin did. Right, he was cleaning the gutters that day, and she knew, and so she should have taken Jill out of that home. And like I said, if Kevin does have issues, but she didn't. She said, "Screw it, I got to help myself."
Happy
and I'm sorry.
Mother's Day.
That's a bad mom.
Happy Mother's Day.
And I'm willing to take the heat. I don't care.
Now, you may have to retract my 10 points, because now I'm wondering if that medication, if he was on it before or after. Wait, how long? When did Lori go to the GR? How long after the departure? Do we know?
I know exactly, but it was a little while after the departure.
Okay, so it just makes me wonder if he was on medication before the departure or not, because that would make a difference.
I'm gonna give you 5 points. Good?
Maybe
I'll be honest.
Maybe the extra stress level from the departure, and then his father going a little crazy and burning down the library made him go a little off.
Yeah, that kind of hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I mean, again, spoiler, they kind of explain all of it medically at the end.
Yeah.
But
which I love.
I like that too. But the thing is, it's like you could argue that those medications that he had, whoever gave them to him because his condition was misdiagnosed. So Lori aside,
would have been, because should your wife be giving you medication?
We don't know if she gave it to him.
I know. I was just saying, would that have been something she would have done?
No, it would have been the guy with the penguin.
Okay.
She shouldn't be doing that, and I think legally you can't, and I don't think she should, but I think Kevin, I mean, he could be misdiagnosed, but I also think that, I mean, mental illness is, does have a genetic factor, and his dad obviously is suffering from something pretty severe, and obviously Kevin is as well. So is the medication helping or harming? I mean, he flushed it all, and now he's we've last seen him holding a dead body. So I'm not sure if flushing a medication was the best idea.
I mean, they never explained why he had that medication to begin with.
And it's a lot of medication. He
Right.
probably clogged the toilet, dumping it down the toilet, right? Because it's a lot of pills.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wish we had got to see that penguin doctor again. It's actually a pretty interesting character now that I think about it.
And no matter what medication it was, we obviously know it was prescription. No matter what it was, if he's used to taking it daily and he stops, or even routinely and he stops, he's going to be different.
Exactly.
So that's a good question. Is that why he ended up waking up in Cairo as opposed to like just sleepwalking through that entire scene?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, are we back next week at the regular bad channel?
We are back next week
Yeah.
for episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
How many episodes are there? Are there 9 in season 1?
10.
10.
Yeah.
I lose a couple points for not knowing that.
The Garveys at their best. The one episode my wife said she will not watch. She's seen it too many times with me. She will not watch.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And earlier when I said that I have done rewatches during that, it's been spur of the moment, just want to knock it out in a few days type thing to get all the feels. But I do not obviously recommend skipping any seasons of the show because it's great. Obviously.
You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want if you watch it all the way once through, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Remember, Abby Bartlett gave Jed those injections for the MS.
Yep, and look what happened there.
She got suspended for a year because she's a rich white lady who can get away with anything.
Exactly. And
There you
she's
go.
the first, and she's the first lady with an attitude.
Yeah, she certainly.
I wouldn't mess with her because the West Wing staff was afraid of her.
And
Right?
did you-
I'm like, what is going on? And then you said West Wing, and I'm like, okay.
You need to watch it, Caleb.
You saw what
I do.
You saw what she did to poor Kanicki.
Yeah.
Creed crossover. Come on, everybody.
Crickets.
I've had a great time, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great
Yeah,
show,
it's
kids.
been
1 in a
great.
million. Again, we'll be back next week, 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time, to discuss episode 9, which is titled what?
The
The
Garveys
Garveys
at their best.
Garvey's at their best. Okay. And am I the only one that thinks of Steve Garvey when I hear about that?
I don't even know who that is.
All right, you just lost points for the rest of the season.
Did you mean Steve Harvey?
No, Steve Garvey.
Yeah, who's Steve Garvey?
He hit the most important home run in San Diego Padre history.
All right. I'll see you next week.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks for everyone who joined us in the chat.
Appreciate it.
And we'll be back next week. Hasta luego and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.